Well, welcome back. Barclays Africa has announced an executive reshuffle today, which of course has inspired the number of the day. We reveal it now. There it is. 6%. That's our number of the day. This is the share of banking revenues that Barclays has across Africa, and it says it wants to double its clout to 12% by making management changes. The company wants to return to being known as ABSA after it was sold, of course, by Barclays Global. There'll now be, of course, 4 core divisions, each headed by its own CEO. Retail and business banking is now headed by Arrie Rautenbach, an investment division by Temi Ofong, and Mike Harvey, a wealth division by Nomkhita Ngweni, and the rest of Africa would remain in the care of Peter Matlare. Barclays says the deputy CEO, David Hodnett, is taking a 2-month sabbatical. They haven't really explained too much about why. The unit, of course, he was in charge of, South African banking, has ceased being a reporting segment. Barclays' share price fell, but so did other major banking stocks today.
We made 3 promises. One was to restore leadership in core business areas. We have 4. We've got retail and business banking, we've got corporate and investment banking, wealth investment management and insurance, as well as our rest of Africa portfolio, which is 10 countries outside South Africa. Each of those has a chief executive who's got complete accountability for the strategy and the implementation thereof in that business. That means in terms of the structure, we no longer have a group chief operating officer. Each of those businesses will have a chief operating officer. Second undertaking was to digitize the bank and to change the culture of the organization in order to improve our customer delivery. So we've got a new portfolio called strategic services, and that is where the organizational culture and human resources sit, group strategy, end-to-end digitization, as well as a separation from Barclays PLC, in which we have an investment of over 14 billion rand from Barclays PLC. And the third undertaking was to play a shaping role in society, and that we will see through our contribution to education in South Africa and other countries, as well as how we participate in key issues that are in the public domain, such as a land issue and so on.
South Africa banking is now going to cease to be a management or reporting segment.
Yes, that's correct. So what we had in the previous formulation were the corporate and investment bank, as well as the retail and business bank, being part of a South Africa business. That changes because, remember, we are going to double the size of our business. So each of these portfolios, while it might look manageable now, in a couple of years' time, each of those portfolios will be very big. So you have to manage the spans and the size of the businesses each executive is accountable for.
What about the issue of stability in the organization? Some might say you just sort of landed on your feet in terms of being part of the Barclays group and now sort of unbundling from that and becoming ABSA again. Does that mean an organizational culture change? What does that mean in terms of how you're going to operate?
Particularly the organizational culture is really, really important, because the strategy will fall or succeed on the basis of how we're able to change the orientation of the business. Digitization of the business itself is part of that change in organizational culture, but fundamentally we want to change the offerings that we make, the way our colleagues think about delivering to customers and clients, and how we see our role as a banking institution, not just in South Africa, but right across the continent.
I suppose one of the things that might raise an eyebrow or two is the issue of David Hodnett.
Yes.
What's going on there? The announcement around him taking a sabbatical seemed terse, maybe even vague.
So David Hodnett, let's take a step back a little bit. He headed the South Africa formulation of the business, which was CIB and RBB. These have been split up, but he had another job. He was Group Deputy Chief Executive Officer for the entire group. He retains that position. The Corporate and Investment Bank, which has 2 co-chief executives already who report to him, they will continue to report to him. It's just that for the 2 months that he is away on sabbatical, they will report to our Chief Executive Officer, Maria Ramos, because the market is going to ask, so who do they report to now that this guy is not around? So when he comes back, that formulation is supposed to continue.
That was certainly going to be my next question, because of course, as you may well remember, last year there were concerns raised by the Black Management Forum around too much power being concentrated in his hands in particular.
Yeah, when we met with the BMF, we did explain also that we in this process. So the kind of changes one is able to make last year, you don't have the same kind of choices that we have now when you've got a new strategy. We can split up the business properly on the back of a new strategy rather than an individual that has exited the business. And what the announcement that you're seeing today is a culmination of that.
So in terms of the new structure, some tweaks, but he remains second in charge.
Yeah, he does, as does Peter Matlare, because we've got two deputy chief executives. Peter Matlare is the other one.
What do you say to the criticism that, particularly when it comes to the issue of transformation, this idea of deputy leaders, that you don't have someone who, you don't have a clear succession plan should one be required, and that when it comes to a black executive, there's always the co-chair issue, particularly in the financial services sector?
Well, look, in this instance, we've got two deputy chief executives with two distinct portfolios. I think we probably have the biggest footprint of the South African banks across the continent, which is 11 countries, including South Africa. We have stated very clearly in our strategy that we're going to go for more mergers and acquisitions. We're going to go for more partnerships right through the continent. So the span and footprint of the business is quite wide. We've got a huge separation program from Barclays PLC. It is important that we structure our team in such a way that the chief executive officer has got people that have got the right level of control and the authority. Both of them are executive directors of the business, or they're members of the board. So you've got the right level of authority at deputy CE level to make sure that things continue going on, that they don't have to wait for the CEO.
So how did you allay the concerns or fears of the BMF?
Well, when we met with the BMF, and they were not the only ones to raise this issue with us last year, actually, was that we are going to have these kind of opportunities as Barclays PLC exits. So we've changed our board. The two new directors that we've added to our board, both of them are black, for instance. Our executive committee at the moment has got 12 members. 6 of them are black, 5 of them are women. So we're moving in the right direction. And there's 1 or 2 appointments that we are yet to make during the course of the year to the executive committee as well. So by the end of the year, the makeup of the executive committee could change as rapidly as we've seen with the board.
To double your market share is quite an ambitious goal that you announced?
It is an ambitious goal, but one that we think is entirely achievable, because one of the challenges that we had prior was we didn't have the extent of the insights that we now have about the African markets in which we operate. Secondly, we had a big parent called Barclays PLC who set the parameters of how far we could go. We think that with over R1 trillion size balance sheet and the asset size that we have and the capital that we have, we can deploy it in a way that is able to grow our business across different segments right across the continent. And we're confident that if we learn the strategy the way that we think we can, we should be able to grow at that rate.